Imagine this: you're at a dinner party, the room is filled with laughter and chatter, the food is exquisite, and you're about to take a bite of that one dish that looks too good to resist. But then, out of nowhere, someone reaches for your plate. Your heart stops for a moment. Is it a harmless gesture? Or have you just crossed a line? Well, if you've ever had the privilege or misfortune of dealing with a Taurus and their food, you already know that this is no ordinary situation. The moment you touch a Taurus food, you might as well be entering dangerous territory. It's not just about eating, it's about territory, security, and pleasure all wrapped into one. Welcome to Zen Mind Peaceful Life, your space for astrology insights, self-discovery, and peaceful living. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with anyone who loves astrology and wants to learn more about the intriguing ways of the zodiac. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for the full story. Today, we're diving deep into the world of Taurus and their unshakable bond with food. We'll explore why messing with their meal could be the biggest mistake of your life and what that says about their deeper psychological needs. Is it about the food itself, or is there something more? Keep watching, and I'll reveal why you should never, ever touch a Taurus food, and how you can understand their deep need for comfort, control, and connection. Taurus. The name alone can bring up images of strength, reliability, and a love for the finer things in life. But when it comes to food? Well, that's where things get personal. There's something almost sacred about the relationship Taurus has with their meals. If you've ever had the audacity to reach for a Taurus plate, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But what if I told you that the food they protect so fiercely isn't just about nourishment, it's much deeper than that? You see, for a Taurus, food is an expression of love, comfort, and even identity. The way they prepare, savor, and even protect their food says more about their psychological needs than we might realize. So, when you disturb a Taurus meal, well, you're not just invading their plate. You're shaking up their entire world. Let me take you through why this happens, and how understanding it can actually help us better connect with Taurus. Not just on the dinner table but in life as well. Let's start with the basics. Taurus is an earth sign, ruled by Venus, the planet of beauty, love, and luxury. This influence gives Taurus a deep appreciation for the good things in life, especially when it comes to sensory experiences. And food? Well, food ranks high on that list. For a Taurus, food isn't just fuel. It's a way to connect with the world, a way to indulge their senses, and perhaps most importantly, a way to ground themselves. Imagine walking into a kitchen, the smell of freshly baked bread filling the air, or maybe a pot of rich stew simmering on the stove. A Taurus doesn't just smell this, they feel it. They savor every moment, every scent. It's almost as though food acts as a direct connection to their soul. This is where the first instinct to protect comes from. When they've spent time preparing or choosing something they love, it's like they've put part of their energy into it. So, when you take a bite from their plate without asking, it's like you're taking a piece of them. That's where the fierce loyalty comes in. Take my friend Rachel, a Taurus, for example. Last year, she hosted a dinner party for a close group of friends. The centerpiece? A perfectly roasted chicken, golden skin, tender meat, and a scent that had everyone eagerly awaiting their first bite. Rachel had spent hours prepping and seasoning that chicken. And as she set it down on the table, she made sure everyone had a fair share. But the moment someone reached for a second piece before anyone else had even had their first, I saw her eyes narrow. Just for a second. It was subtle, but the shift was real. It wasn't about the chicken. It was about respect. Her food was her offering, her care, and her comfort. When that was disregarded, so was her sense of peace. Now, you might be wondering, okay, that's just one example. It's not that deep, right? But here's the thing, food to a Taurus isn't just about the act of eating. It's about routine, it's about self-expression, and it's about creating an environment where they can truly feel at ease. There's a reason why many Taurus people have specific rituals around their meals. They'll have their favorite spots to sit, their favorite utensils, their favorite playlist that goes along with the evening. And it's in these rituals that they find comfort. This is why when someone disrupts that, whether by touching their food or rushing the process, it's not just an inconvenience. It's a violation of the space they've created for themselves. For Taurus's, food is their sanctuary, their space to recharge and recenter in a world that often feels unpredictable. It's their way of bringing a sense of calm, and they will defend it fiercely, even if it's just a seemingly small thing. Here's a practical tip: if you're dining with a Taurus, it's best to respect their space around food. Don't rush them into making choices, don't take the last bite unless they offer it, and definitely don't touch their plate unless invited to. If you take a moment to understand that food to them is more than just about eating, it's about maintaining balance, you'll be welcomed into that space, not just as a guest, but as someone who understands them on a deeper level. But here's where it gets interesting: let's talk about the slower burn of a Taurus temper. A lot of people think that a Taurus anger is slow to ignite and therefore harmless. But trust me, if you've ever seen a Taurus upset, you'll know exactly why they say, "Don't mess with the bull." They may not show it right away, but that anger? It builds quietly. It's like a pressure cooker waiting to release its steam. The longer you push those boundaries, the more intense the response. And food? Well, food is the one thing that can set it off. I remember a story from a few months ago when I was at a cafe with another Taurus friend, Olivia. We had ordered lunch, and the waiter brought our food a little late, no big deal. Right? But Olivia had been craving that specific dish all week, and when her meal finally arrived, it was wrong. Not drastically wrong, but just enough to throw off her expectations. Most people would brush it off, maybe even laugh it off. But Olivia? She didn't. She politely pointed it out, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. She wasn't angry at the waiter. She was angry at the disruption of her expectations. The disruption of the pleasure she had been looking forward to all day. The lesson here is clear: don't underestimate the Taurus need for control and predictability. Especially when it comes to food. When they've set their mind to something, whether it's the exact way they like their steak cooked, or the perfect dessert pairing, anything that messes with that is more than just a minor inconvenience. It's an emotional setback. For a Taurus, who thrives on routine and comfort, these little disruptions are far more meaningful than they might seem at first glance. This brings us to another key aspect of their relationship with food: the deeper connection to their routines and rituals. Taurus thrives on consistency. If you're close to a Taurus, you'll notice that they have a deep-seated connection to their daily routines, especially when it comes to food. They have their favorite meals, favorite times to eat, and even specific ways they like their food prepared. And these routines aren't just about preference, they are about a need for stability. Every meal is a chance for Taurus to ground themselves, to affirm their sense of control in a world that can feel chaotic. That is why when someone disrupts that routine, it feels like a personal invasion. In practical terms, if you want to show a Taurus that you respect them, show respect for their routines. If you know they eat at a specific time every day or have certain dishes they prefer on particular occasions, try to honor that. It doesn't mean you have to mirror it. But being aware of their need for consistency in these small things will go a long way in showing you care. And here's where it all comes together. Taurus bond with food is about more than just nourishment. It's about comfort, control, and a sense of peace. When you disrupt that peace, whether by rushing them, touching their plate, or disregarding their routines, you're not just upsetting their meal. You're disturbing their inner balance. And for a sign that values security above all else, that's not something they take lightly. But if you understand this, if you can appreciate the depth of their connection to food, you'll not only avoid upsetting them, you'll build a much stronger, more meaningful relationship with the Taurus in your life. understanding their boundaries, respecting their routines, and recognizing the importance of food in their emotional life can transform how you relate to them. So, next time you're sharing a meal with a Taurus, remember, it's not just about the food, it's about their sense of self, their peace, and their need for comfort. And if you can honor that, you'll be one step closer to truly understanding the heart of a Taurus. Taurus, the earth sign ruled by Venus, has an undeniable connection to the pleasures of life, and food is one of the deepest expressions of this. While others might casually eat to fuel themselves, a Taurus doesn't just eat, they experience their food. It's about more than satisfying hunger, it's about indulging the senses, finding comfort, and even asserting control over their own world. But here's the thing, food represents far more than just a meal. For Taurus, it's a source of stability, a ritual, and an expression of their very identity. If you've ever dared to disrupt this connection, whether by snatching a bite or rushing through a meal, you've probably encountered the subtle but powerful force that emerges. And it's not just about food. The food they serve is an extension of themselves. To touch a Taurus plate isn't just about taking a piece of their meal, it's about taking a piece of their comfort zone. And when you disrupt that, you risk triggering something much deeper than just a momentary irritation. Let me take you further into the psychology behind this connection, so you can understand why. When it comes to Taurus, you'd better not touch their food without permission. First, you must understand that food is a form of self-expression for Taurus. It's their way of sharing love, of providing care, of showing their devotion to others. And when they prepare or present a dish, it's a deeply personal act. Take Leah, a Taurus I know, who invited a group of friends over for a dinner party. She'd spent hours crafting the perfect meal, choosing ingredients carefully, and setting the table just right. When the time came to serve, she looked at each guest with a quiet but knowing smile. She didn't just want them to eat, she wanted them to experience the care she'd put into every bite. The moment someone reached for a second helping without asking, I saw her pause. And in that silence, I could feel her growing discomfort. It wasn't about the food itself, it was about how deeply she'd invested in this meal, how much of her energy and heart were woven into it. That's what makes a Taurus so protective of their food. It's an offering of their essence, and when you touch it without acknowledgement, it feels like an intrusion. For Taurus, food can also symbolize stability and routine. Just as a rock is rooted in the earth, Taurus finds grounding in their daily practices, especially when it comes to meals. They thrive in structured environments. And mealtime is a place where they can take comfort in what they know, what they can count on. If you've ever shared a quiet evening with a Taurus, you'll notice that their meals often follow a ritualistic pattern. There's a particular way they set the table, a specific time they sit down to eat, and a methodical approach to every bite. Disrupting this routine can feel like throwing their entire sense of peace into chaos. For example, consider Jonah, a close friend of mine who happens to be a Taurus. He's the kind of person who, when it comes to food, doesn't just eat. Every evening, he sits down at precisely 7 p.m. No exceptions. He's methodical about how his meal is prepared, nothing too fancy, just fresh, wholesome ingredients that he's carefully selected. One night, a friend casually came by early, expecting dinner to be ready, and Jonah was taken aback. His usual routine had been disturbed. His peaceful evening had been interrupted before it even began. It wasn't just about the food, it was about the space he had carved out for himself. A space where he could fully relax and enjoy the comfort he had created. That's the thing about Taurus. Their meals are their rituals, and they use these rituals to carve out the stability they crave in a world that often feels unpredictable. Taurus' deep connection to food goes beyond sustenance, it's their way of controlling their environment. You see, Taurus has a fixed nature, and that gives them a strong need for control. When they've planned a meal, chosen ingredients, and taken the time to prepare something with care, they're asserting control over their surroundings. It's not about the actual food. It's about the process. They've created a space where they feel safe and secure. So, when someone encroaches on that, whether by snatching a bite or rushing through a meal, it's not just an inconvenience, it's a violation of their personal space. Their sense of control. I witnessed this firsthand when I was at a party with another Taurus, Ethan. He'd spent the better part of the afternoon preparing a beautiful charcuterie board, meticulously arranging each piece with a care that only a Taurus could appreciate. When we sat down to eat, someone quickly grabbed a piece of cheese before anyone else had even settled in. Ethan didn't snap, but there was a shift in his energy. I could feel it. His face remained calm, but I knew that in his mind, the boundaries had been crossed. To him, that charcuterie board wasn't just a snack, it was his creation, a manifestation of his ability to control the environment around him. By taking something without asking, someone had disrupted his carefully crafted space. What this shows is that food, for Taurus, is a form of self-expression and emotional security. When you approach a Taurus food, you're not just taking a bite, you're taking a piece of their comfort zone. It's no surprise then, that Taurus people are often slow to forgive when their food is tampered with. Especially when it happens repeatedly. They won't react immediately, but rest assured, the memory lingers. This is where the quiet intensity of a Taurus anger comes in. It's not that they'll explode into a dramatic outburst. No, their anger is more subtle, simmering beneath the surface, a constant reminder that their boundaries have been crossed. There's a moment in the film Julia where Meryl Streep's character, Julia Child, talks about the joy she gets from creating food, how every dish is a labor of love, a way of bringing people together. For Taurus, this sentiment resonates deeply. They, too, express love through food, and the act of preparing a meal isn't just about satisfying hunger, it's about sharing a part of themselves. When you appreciate the time, effort, and care they've put into preparing a dish, you're acknowledging their value and their worth. Take advice from the Taurus around you, if you want to make a meaningful connection. Show that you understand the importance of their rituals. If you're at the table with a Taurus, don't rush. Don't take the last bite without permission. And never, ever touch their plate unless they offer it. It's a simple act of respect, but it can mean so much more to them than you realize. It's not about the food, it's about the space you're sharing with them, the comfort, and the connection they're inviting you into. And perhaps most importantly, never forget that Taurus values consistency. They are creatures of habit, and when it comes to food, those habits are what ground them. If you want to show a Taurus you truly care, respect their routines. Honor the way they like their meals prepared, acknowledge the time they set aside for their rituals, and understand that food is not just about eating for them, it's about nourishment for the body and soul. Their food is their safe space, their way of connecting to the world and to themselves. If you understand this, you'll earn not just a place at their table, but a deeper understanding of who they are. For a Taurus, food is never just about survival. It's about comfort, luxury, and the peace of mind that comes with indulging the senses. Whether it's a carefully prepared meal, a favorite snack, or an elaborate dinner with friends, food is where they find joy and stability. It's more than just a necessity, it's a ritual, a way to assert control, and, above all, a source of peace in a chaotic world. If you've ever crossed a Taurus at the dinner table, you know it's more than just a food fight, it's a matter of personal space and emotional security. But the thing is, there's more going on beneath the surface. Food to a Taurus represents their ability to control their environment, to carve out a space where they feel safe and secure. It's a deeply psychological bond that most people might overlook, but for Taurus, it's one of their most fundamental ways of feeling grounded. Disrupting that bond, especially by touching their food without permission, can feel like violating their very sense of self. But what does this really mean? Let's break it down further, because understanding why a Taurus is so fiercely protective of their food can tell you a lot about their deeper psychological needs. In many ways, food is a reflection of the Taurus personality itself, grounded, loyal, and intensely protective of what matters most. When I think of a Taurus and their connection to food, one person comes to mind: my friend Sarah. Sarah is a Taurus to the core. She's reliable, practical, and deeply connected to the small pleasures in life. One summer, she invited a group of us over for a barbecue. The food was incredible, but it wasn't just about the meal. Sarah had spent days preparing everything, from marinating the meats to picking out the perfect wine pairings. When the time finally came to eat, we all gathered around the table, eager to dive into the spread. But before anyone took a bite, Sarah made it clear, we were going to wait for everyone to sit down, and we were going to enjoy every moment. The meal wasn't just about filling our stomachs, it was about savoring the experience, appreciating the care that went into making each dish. In this moment, Sarah wasn't just hosting. She was creating an experience, a safe space where she could share something deeply personal, her love of good food, her appreciation for quality, and her desire to connect with people in a meaningful way. For Sarah, the food was an offering. It was a piece of her, a reflection of who she is. And when someone reached for a second helping before others had even taken their first, there was a noticeable shift in the energy at the table. It wasn't about the extra food, it was about the breach of respect, the disruption of the ritual she had so carefully created. You see, for Tauruses, food is not just sustenance, it's an emotional anchor. It's a way to feel in control, a way to ground themselves in a world that often feels chaotic. And this is where the real depth of their connection to food comes into play. When a Taurus prepares a meal, they're not just making something to eat, they're creating a moment of tranquility, a space where everything else fades away. This is why their attachment to food is so strong, and why they protect it fiercely. I remember another moment, one that perfectly illustrates the importance of food rituals for Taurus. My friend Ethan, another Taurus, invited me over to his house one evening to share a meal. I knew Ethan well enough to know that he wasn't just cooking for the sake of feeding us. This meal was his way of offering something meaningful. He had spent hours preparing. And when it came time to eat, we sat down to a beautifully set table, the kind of table where everything has its place, and each dish is given its due attention. But halfway through dinner, one of the guests, not understanding the significance of the moment, made a joke about rushing through the meal. Ethan's face changed. It wasn't an angry outburst, nothing dramatic, but there was a quiet tension in the air. Ethan was upset, not because he was offended by the joke itself, but because it had disrupted the rhythm of the evening. For him, the meal wasn't just about eating, it was about experiencing something with intention. About savoring the moment. When that flow was interrupted, it felt like a personal violation. This is where a Taurus need for control comes into play. They are, at their core, creatures of habit and consistency. Their attachment to food and their rituals surrounding it are often rooted in their desire to create a stable, predictable environment. And when that stability is shaken, whether by rushing through a meal or touching their plate without permission, it can feel like a personal affront. But here's the thing, understanding this behavior can help you build a stronger, more meaningful relationship with the Taurus in your life. If you respect their food rituals, if you honor the time they take to prepare and enjoy a meal, you're showing them that you understand their need for stability, for peace, and for control. It's a small gesture, but it means the world to them. Take a moment to reflect on how you can incorporate this into your own life. Are there moments where you find comfort in routine or ritual? Do you have something, whether it's food, hobbies, or relationships, that helps you feel grounded in a world that often feels unpredictable? Understanding the Taurus need for stability can help you appreciate how powerful these small rituals can be. And if you're lucky enough to share a meal with a Taurus, take the time to show that you respect their space. Don't rush through the meal. Don't take the last bite without asking. And never touch their food without permission. It may seem like a small thing, but for a Taurus, it's a matter of trust. In many ways, food is a form of self-care for Taurus. It's their way of nourishing not only their body but also their soul. And because of this, they tend to have a heightened sense of ownership over what they eat. They take pride in their culinary creations, and this pride extends to the entire experience, from the preparation to the consumption. So when someone touches their food without asking, it's more than just a breach of etiquette, it's a violation of their self-expression. It's an unwelcome intrusion into a space they've carefully cultivated. I learned this lesson the hard way when I visited a Taurus friend's house for dinner. She had made a beautiful pasta dish, and before I even had the chance to taste it, someone at the table reached for a forkful. I watched my friend's face carefully as she slowly looked at the person who had touched her plate. It wasn't anger that I saw, but a quiet, almost imperceptible hurt. For her, that pasta dish wasn't just food, it was an expression of love and care. By taking that first bite without asking, the person had unwittingly disrespected not just the meal, but the thought and energy that went into preparing it. The key here is understanding that for Tauruses, food is often an extension of themselves. It's their way of expressing care, affection, and even control. By respecting their food, you're acknowledging their worth and showing that you value their rituals. You're not just respecting the meal, you're respecting their emotional space. And this is something that goes a long way when building relationships with a Taurus. So next time you find yourself dining with a Taurus, remember, it's not just about the food. It's about the intention behind it, the care, and the space they've created for themselves. By honoring that, you're not just respecting their boundaries, you're acknowledging a deeper part of who they are. And in doing so, you'll earn their trust, their loyalty, and a seat at their table. Food to a Taurus is so much more than sustenance. It's an expression of their love, their care, and their deep connection to their surroundings. It's a way for them to feel rooted and in control. To carve out a space of peace amidst the chaos of the world. And as we've explored so far, when someone messes with their food, they aren't just infringing on a meal, they're disrupting their sanctuary, their peace, and their sense of self. But there's more to this story. Let's dive deeper into the final aspects of why a Taurus food should never be touched without permission, and how understanding these behaviors can help you form a deeper connection with a Taurus in your life. For Taurus, food is an act of creation. It's their way of imprinting something personal and meaningful into the world. When a Taurus prepares a meal, it's an extension of who they are. They don't rush through the process, and they don't do it casually. It's a labor of love, a true act of devotion. If you've ever noticed a Taurus carefully preparing a dish, you'll see how every movement is thoughtful. Every ingredient has been chosen with intention, and every step is performed with a kind of reverence. It's in this process that Taurus finds joy and fulfillment. Think of it like a form of art. It's not just about mixing ingredients together, it's about creating something that has meaning, something that represents their vision, their values, and their creativity. And when they present that meal to others, it's not just a plate of food, it's a piece of their heart, their care, and their attention. To understand this is to understand the Taurus need to feel seen, valued, and appreciated for their efforts. For example, I once attended a small gathering at the home of a Taurus friend, Alex. The evening was casual, yet the meal he served was nothing short of extraordinary. Alex had spent the entire day shopping for fresh ingredients and preparing each dish with meticulous care. When he finally sat down to eat with us, he looked around the table, silently observing his guests. This was his moment, not just to share food, but to share something deeply personal. He didn't speak much during the meal, but you could tell he was savoring not just the food, but the experience of sharing it with those who respected it. The moment someone began to dig into the food without acknowledging how much care had gone into it, there was an almost imperceptible shift in Alex's demeanor. It wasn't anger, it was hurt, a quiet recognition that the effort he'd put into the meal wasn't being fully appreciated. This is the core of Taurus' relationship with food. It's not just about feeding others, it's about creating an environment where they can express their care, their creativity, and their personal touch. They want to be seen, and they want their efforts to be respected. So, when someone interrupts this sacred moment by carelessly taking food or rushing through the meal, it feels like a deep disregard for their hard work and intentions. Now, as we explore the deeper layers of a Taurus bond with food, it's essential to understand the psychological aspect of control. Taurus is a fixed sign, which means they tend to be steadfast, stable, and deeply connected to the routines that make them feel secure. This need for stability is often expressed in their meals, which are a crucial part of their daily rituals. Every meal, every snack, every moment of eating becomes an act of self-care, of reinforcing the foundation they've carefully built in their lives. For Taurus, food represents control over their environment. When they cook, they are asserting their ability to create something of value in a world that can sometimes feel beyond their grasp. Think of it as their way of taking the reins in a world that constantly shifts around them. They find peace in the process of choosing ingredients, preparing the dish, and finally, sitting down to enjoy the meal they've crafted. The meal is their sanctuary, a moment to feel grounded, to feel in control, and to savor the simple pleasures that life offers. This need for control is often misunderstood. It's not about being controlling in the sense of trying to dominate others. It's about wanting to create an environment where everything aligns with their sense of peace. So, when you touch a Taurus food or rush them through the process of eating, you're disrupting that carefully curated space. You're interrupting their sense of control and, by extension, their sense of security. I once shared a meal with a Taurus friend, Ben, who had spent hours preparing a traditional dish from his childhood. The recipe was something his grandmother had passed down to him, and each ingredient was chosen with love and care. When it was finally time to eat, we all sat down to enjoy the meal. But as the conversation flowed, one of the guests, not understanding the importance of the dish, began to rush through the meal, talking over it and barely acknowledging the effort that had gone into it. Ben, who had been so calm and composed throughout the evening, suddenly became quiet. I could see that his internal peace had been disturbed. It wasn't the food, it was the way the meal was being treated. For him, that dish was more than just food, it was a connection to his roots, a moment of control over the chaos in his life, and a way of holding on to something familiar. In this moment, Ben's need for stability and control over his environment became clear. For Taurus, food is a way of asserting their place in the world and creating a space where they feel grounded. When that space is disrupted, it's not just the meal that's affected, it's their sense of self. This leads us to the final, and perhaps most important, aspect of Taurus' relationship with food, their need for peace. For many people, food is simply a means to an end, a way to satisfy hunger. But for Taurus, food is a sanctuary. It's a moment of quiet reflection, a time to slow down and enjoy the simple pleasures of life. It's in the act of eating that Taurus finds a sense of calm, a break from the rush and demands of the world. For Taurus, food becomes a meditative experience. It's not about speed or efficiency. It's about savoring each bite, enjoying the textures, the flavors, the aromas, and the company. When they sit down to a meal, they want to be fully present in that moment. They want to enjoy the experience and connect with those around them in a peaceful, unhurried way. So, when someone touches their food or rushes through the meal, it disrupts this peaceful moment. It feels like an invasion into their sanctuary, a place where they've carved out time for themselves to rest and recharge. I recall a dinner I had with a Taurus friend, Lucy, who made a point of slowing everything down. The meal was simple, yet she treated every bite with reverence. We ate slowly, savoring each dish, and the conversation was relaxed and unforced. It wasn't about how fast we could eat, it was about the experience of being present. But then, during dessert, someone rushed to take the last piece without a word. I saw Lucy's eyes flicker with annoyance, but it wasn't just about the dessert. It was about the disruption of the peaceful flow she had created. For Lucy, that dessert wasn't just a treat, it was a culmination of an evening spent in calm reflection. By rushing through it, that moment of peace was lost. This is why Taurus is so protective of their food. It's not just about the meal itself, it's about creating a peaceful, controlled environment where they can feel safe and grounded. And when that peace is disrupted, it feels like their entire world is shaken. That's why it's crucial to respect the time and care Taurus puts into their food, to allow them to experience it fully without rushing or interrupting. As we wrap up this video, remember that Taurus bond with food is about much more than just eating. It's a reflection of their deeper psychological needs for comfort, control, and peace. By understanding this, you can better appreciate why Taurus is so protective of their meals, and how you can create a more harmonious relationship with them. Respect their food, respect their space. And you'll find that Taurus will offer you more than just a meal, they'll offer you a moment of connection, a piece of their heart. So, the next time you're at the table with a Taurus, take a moment to truly appreciate what's in front of you. It's not just food, it's their love, their creativity, and their need for peace. And if you can honor that, you'll earn their respect and loyalty in a way that goes far beyond the dinner table. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into astrology and the fascinating personalities of each zodiac sign, be sure to subscribe, like, and share this video with anyone who might enjoy it. Until next time, stay peaceful, stay grounded, and keep exploring the world of astrology.